Hello, World Codes is here, and I'm going to be doing the NGG 2.0 mock draft during our weekly shorts in the regular season. We did a way too early one. This one is going to be, still pretty early, but I'm going to talk a little bit more about each team, talk about the prospects a little bit. Um, Obviously, it's like partially my evaluation, which could mean absolutely nothing or be correct. Nobody knows, but we're just talking because we love content and K Migs wants content. So here you go, K Migs. Um, we're gonna we're gonna get started at the 101 with the C words, and Rick's gonna go and take Cam Ward, the quarterback from Miami. And I believe the last mock I looked at, he's projected to go number one to the Titans. Unless there's trades, of course, and maybe the Giants trade up, maybe the Raiders trade up, maybe the Browns even trade up. I think the general sentiment is that Cam Ward is like expected to be the number one quarterback over Shador Sanders. Anyways, Cam Ward, number one pick. Rick's squad ended up performing to about expectation last year. They were able to put together good enough performances in the toilet bowl to get in this spot. Despite most of the hype being around Ashton Genty, we've got them going with Cam Ward because the Seawards still have some questions at quarterback. With Anthony Richardson, he may not be the answer at QB in Indianapolis. There aren't that many great options on the free agent market right now. I think the Sam Darnold might be like the best quarterback available. I'm guessing Kirk Cousins goes to free agency in our league, but does he even find a team? Who knows? Cam Ward is a 5-year college starter. He's got tools. He's got the athleticism. He can at least be, fantasy viable in Superflex. The best case scenario would be he starts immediately. I think if he goes to Tennessee, he's probably going to be playing over Will Levis. I don't really see why you'd have a competition if you're drafting this guy 101. But if the Giants trade up and, Cam Ward plays for the Giants, then, that, probably would actually be the preferred option for Rick anyway, would be to draft, the QB for his homer team. Regardless, Ward will at least be prepared with a offensive-minded head coach in other situations. So the recipe for success is definitely there, especially if the offensive line play improves, at all for either team, whether it's Tennessee or New York or the Browns. 102 next, we have the Webster Tigers. They are going to be selecting Ashton Genty, running back out of Boise State. And the Webster Tigers have certainly been a team on the rise as of late. They seem to just consistently lack firepower at prime positions, and they seem to flake out at times, at least last year. But adding a Heisman candidate that scored 30 total touchdowns on the year, averaged 7 yards per carry for Boise State. Obviously, I guess it's like a weaker conference than maybe like the SEC, but that's still absolutely dominant for running back in college. I think he's only like 21 years old too. That'll help Morgan's squad immediately. And, Genty will more than likely start in the NFL right out the gate. I don't see why a team would draft Genty and not give him the ball. This is probably the safest pick in the draft and fills a serious team need. I think most rookie mocks these days, at least in this, we're in January, most rookie mocks have Genty going 1-1, even in Superflex at times. The Cowboys also pick at number 12 for anyone wondering. Just throwing that out there. 103, Am I Spooky? We have them selecting Shador Sanders, the quarterback out of Colorado. Project took this orphan over a year ago, and he holds an 8-9 record, lifetime here in NGG, which, you considering the state of the team, that's pretty impressive. And not to mention he went on a hot streak at the end of the year last season. And, Zoinks didn't do him any favors in planning for the future because Zoinks was always an all-in kind of guy every single year. That Jimmy G trade really made it for him. The roster certainly has some depth issues, but there are promising building blocks with Spooky's squad. At this point, the goal is probably to continue accumulating value. Got to think that their new division draw after realignment probably doesn't favor them in terms of trying to compete. So I think they just go with a talented QB, best available in Shador Sanders, give them a hopefully reliable play in the Superflex. He's going to pair that with Tua, who's more than likely going to sign an extension. I don't see why you'd let him walk. And, that just sounds like the responsible thing to do right here. 104, my cup runneth over, selects Ted McMillan, wide receiver out of Arizona. Nate has had a tough break, coming into the league, taking over for Dan Flashes. We know Nate was not afraid to sell right away, as he has that 2026 year earmarked. But with that said, he's going to need a hit on some of these picks in order to make that a reality. We got him doing that just here, grabbing the first receiver off the board. Ted McMillan, 6'5", 210 out of Arizona. He can separate incredibly well for his size. And in back-to-back years as a sophomore and junior, he had over 80 receptions. I think 1,300 receiving yards and 8 touchdowns. I mean, sign me up. He's producing like NFL stats like right away. Every team could use a receiver these days, so his talent will likely outweigh a poor landing spot in my eyes, which just makes him even better pickup for Nate as he rebuilds. 105, the Liquidators are going to go with Travis Hunter, the cornerback, wide receiver, two-way player out of Colorado. And here's my take on it. Talking about Chase, he had a great bounce back season after embracing the full liquidation of his roster 2 years ago. He definitely struggled to keep up with the contenders race just due to injuries and poor luck at times. I feel like Chase had always had guys injured, like people he would have in the starting lineup 1 week would be out the very next, and then he's got to find a replacement for that guy that he just put in the week after. But I mean, with that said, there aren't many holes on the roster at all. They have plenty of draft capital, and it's kind of why I think they swing for the fences here at 105. I mean, here are the facts. Travis Hunter won the Heisman. Sure, he played 2 positions in college, but even while doing that, he caught 96 passes on offense for 1,258 yards and 16 total touchdowns. And I completely understand the risk in fantasy with a two-way player, but I feel like the rewards just got to be too high, right, for his talent to get out of the first round in rookie drafts, because he's probably going to be a top 10 pick in the NFL draft. I mean, at this point, they're all dart throws, right, because nothing's really guaranteed. If we had to gamble on a guy that could potentially go to the league and become a superstar, I mean, I feel like Travis Hunter is, probably one of the best odds to do that. And not only that, but the Liquidators are in the best position to gamble on Hunter becoming a full-time wideout in the league. Because if it doesn't work out, it is what it is. But, they have so much draft capital, pretty good cap situation long-term. If it doesn't work out, it is what it is. But this kind of move is something that can push them over the hump if they get it right. You don't want to play it safe here. Why would you play it safe? You're so close to making that push to be like a contender this particular year. And Hunter's projected to go as early as 4 to the Patriots in some mocks. And I'm like, in my mind, if the Patriots are going to grab him, there's no way they won't use him on offense over there. And I just realized it's also sneaky stacked with Drake May, drafted by the Liquidators last year. So we're going to go with Travis Hunter, and that's polarizing, I know, but I mean, how far does he drop? I don't remember exactly where I had him in my previous mock during the regular season, but I just don't. I can't see how he goes below 105 if he ends up being a top 10 pick in the NFL draft. And maybe I'm wrong. Maybe you guys will prove me wrong come draft season. So 106 is next. We have the Webster Tigers selecting Emeka Egbuka, the wide receiver out of Ohio State. Morgan's back 106 after the extra pick bracket loss. But yeah, they go with Egbuka here, reliable, consistent producer in college with traits everyone looks for in a receiver. Finds soft spots in the zones. He played with Garrett Wilson, JSN, Marvin Harrison Jr. He still produced in all those years, playing with all those great talents. Egbuka is also a natural hands catcher, which I know that's a big deal for Morgan, considering he's literally a high school football coach. There are no body catchers allowed, and I guess that maybe has a new meaning in 2025. But anyway, I can't fault the draft choice at all. It may be a slight reach depending on where he actually ends up, but I don't think he's missing out on much anyways. I mean, everyone seems to think the Pittsburgh Steelers are a perfect landing spot for him at like pick 21, which I mean, that could be nice depending on if Russell Wilson hangs around. Even if Justin Fields hangs around, I think it makes too much sense to go receiver here after he's already secured the RB of the future in Ashton Genty. And a safe wide receiver at that, someone you can just plug into that fifth flex spot and be fine. So, We are distracted for a moment. So our next pick we're going to talk about is 107, Winlike Flynn, and he is going to be selecting Omarion Hampton, the running back out of North Carolina. And this pick is Flynn's only draft choice this season after having multiple in previous years. Flynn is on the upswing after making the playoffs in the fabled Division of Death, despite coming fourth in the division. Now, as part of a new division with Unicorn, Allen, and Nate, it's reasonable to assume they'll compete. I mean, why would you not, right? Had such a great year. He is in prime position to compete for the division title in this one. Depending on what happens with Rodgers, he could need a quarterback, but since it is Rodgers we're talking about here, there's it's probably going to be like a drama fest, and maybe he fake retires. I don't know. I mean, I don't know. I guess that seems to be just the common theme with these quarterbacks over 40 that are still playing in the league. Um, but I mean, he wasn't great, wasn't bad. It's just kind of average. It's like I don't know. I feel like maybe the Jets will hang on for another year if he wants, but I mean, I know there's so much talk around that Jets organization about either like cleaning house or just starting from scratch, and then the Woody Johnson bullshit, and just it's a mess either way. But I mean, I don't really know if you pick a QB here. I guess we'll go with the assumption that Rodgers stays and he keeps Rodgers, and Rodgers plays one more year, and then they'll Flynn will go RB, push win now. Omarion Hampton project is the best available. Landing spot's going to be ideal, of course. But I mean, Omarion Hampton checks so many boxes. Like he had 1,500 plus scrimmage yards in back-to-back years. He's got great size, 6'2", 220, great speed, great hands, good at pass protection, which is a big deal. There's a lot of RB depth in this class, so it may be weird to see Flynn go this early, but we need to consider his new division mate Justin's Deli. Picks at 109, just two spots after him, and they've got some glaring depth holes at running back with only 3 on the roster, and Bijan is holding out as well. So, grabbing this to maybe be a potential snipe. Also, not to mention, Omarion Hampton also escaped Bill Belichick's reign of terror. So the tread on these tires aren't already worn down too bad. Our next selection, the C-words, are going to go with Luther Burden, the wide receiver out of Missouri. Rick is back at 108 after locking up his hopeful QB of the future. He'll still have the most cap space in the league, and I'm already expecting him to land at least 1 or 2 big-time free agents. And with that in mind, he's probably going to find a good running back, probably going to find a good receiver, but he'll have, this pick here, someone he can slot in as like a wide receiver 4 maybe. And right now, Luther Bird once upon a time was in top 5 conversations, but he's coming off sort of a down year. I still see him mocked high sometimes. I've seen him come I think 12 to the Cowboys. So the narratives on him are still good. He's produced every year in Missouri. He's rocking, or they rock that spread offense over there. So he should be an exciting receiver to watch in leagues in the right scheme in the pros. I know that a lot of people love his route running and how electric he is. So we went with Luther Burden there for the C-words. 109, Justin's Deli, and they're going to take Caleb Johnson, the running back out of Iowa. And we talk about Alan McNatt. I mean, I feel like Alan has always had like these late firsts, and I mean, I know that's kind of a good thing, right? Because if you always have late first, that means you're always in the mix. I mean, Allen is he's one of a kind. He just a 4th place finish on the season. Doubters keep doubting him, keep thinking he's not going to make the playoffs, but he keeps proving him wrong every year. Finding himself in the mix. We'll see if he can, add another division title to his belt now that the realignment's taken place. I will say they have their work cut out for them. The good news is they have flexibility with the cap to re-sign certain guys and potentially compete for a few free agents. They have like almost $400 worth of cap, which they'll need to retain certain guys, but also still kind of just be lurking in the free agent market. The one position his team needs, I alluded to before, is running back. They only have 3 on the roster at the moment, and I don't know how good the running back free agent class is going to get. I know Saquon's there, but we don't know about any of these other guys, and this is why they select Caleb Johnson out of Iowa. with 24 total touchdowns on the year, and he proved to be a tough physical runner. Could also get it done in the pass game. He's got soft hands. Landing spot's going to matter, of course, as it usually does. Hopefully, he'll find himself in an outside zone scheme because that's where I think he thrives. But it's hard to see him fade, with the way he's burst onto the scene this year from seemingly out of nowhere. I mean, he was on Iowa's roster, but this particular year, he absolutely lit it up. 110, we are almost to the end here. The implications are going to select Tyler Warren, the tight end out of Penn State. And I mean, our lovely commissioner, Blind Spiral, here he is sitting in a first round of our league here with back to back first round picks. Who'd have thought, I mean, I'm not going to be surprised if he trades them both away before, we actually get to the draft season. But, there's good news and there's bad news. He's got 2 firsts. Bad news is this roster needs some serious help. He might still need help if he had 4 firsts in this first round. If these picks don't get traded by the time the selections do, I have them taking their tight end of the future in, Tyler Warren. And now, going tight end in a non-tight end premium in the first round, I agree it feels disgusting. But I mean, as you all know very well, there is nothing on this roster. Unless Noah Gray becomes Mahomes' go-to guy after Kelsey retires, then maybe that's his tight end in the future. I just, Will Dissly, like what you got to start somewhere. This is like a full rebuild. I don't know if I would quite, compare this to Chase's rebuild because Chase at least still had some pieces. I feel like this, you are completely starting from scratch. You've got Nico Collins, you've got Devonta Smith, you've got, Jonathan Taylor, but like everything else, you are completely rebuilding from. So, I think you go with this guy, Tyler Warren. I mean, this free agent pool is quite dry of quality tight ends, and it got significantly worse with Kyle Pitts now rotting there. But anyways, talking about Tyler Warren, this guy was a one-man army at Penn State. Catch, run, pass, you name it. Like he literally was throwing touchdowns, doing RPOs. I mean, this guy is a absolute beast. I think he's like 6'6", 260 or whatever. And I mean, we just saw Brock Bowers absolutely take the league by storm. I'm not comparing Warren to Brock Bowers, but I mean, if Tyler Warren pairs with a good QB somewhere, he may slot in right away as a number 2 option. And at the very least, Blind will get a free square at the position. Just throw Tyler Warren in at tight end, and let him play for a couple of years, and then see maybe you hit, maybe you don't. But he needs to be able to turn his attention to other positions of need. And grabbing Tyler Warren here, you can just put him in, plug him in every week, and just deal with the consequences. With their next pick, they have the back-to-back here. I have the implications selecting Jalen Milroe, QB out of Alabama. As of right now, it's so challenging to draft players for a team with so many holes, which is why the implications draft is just pure upside. Kind of going into this thinking like Blind, just being like I have no expectation immediately. Just give me the upside, guys. And part of the reason why I love taking the shot on Jalen Milroe here. He's got the Alabama pedigree. His passing game is underrated in my opinion. I know there's people that have doubts, but he also comes in with a built-in rushing floor. I mean, I know Anthony Richardson's stock is not very high right now, but if you get Anthony Richardson out of a 111 pick, Anthony Richardson-esque out of a 111 pick, I mean, that's not too bad. Maybe it doesn't start right away either, but and then again, neither did guys like Lamar Jackson in 2018. Flacco started for the first 9 games or so, and then Lamar came in, or like Jalen Hurts. Like Hurts, I don't think he started the first year, but he could get picked up mid to late first in the NFL draft. And, Jalen Milroe with that capital, he's absolutely worth throwing the dart on. Especially in a team with so many holes as Blinds does. Just another small dig there. 112, my cup runneth over. We have them taking Travion Henderson, the running back out of Ohio State. And now Nate is back, with the 112. He did secure Ted McMillan with his first choice. He's now going to shift gears to a talented running back. At this time, we don't really know if Quinshon Judkins is, also declaring or not, but either way, I like Henderson more between the two, at least for first-round consideration. He's got Electric speed. He's always a big play threat. Amazing lateral agility and quickness. Probably not going to end up being a third down back in the league, but look at what people were saying about Devon Achane 2 years ago. And Achane's now in Miami, and he's eating it up, especially in the PPR game. If the range of outcomes is anything like Achane, Nate should be pleased with his pickup. I don't know if that's necessarily my comp for Henderson, but he just seems like a guy that could be a PPR threat. Wherever he goes, safe, no matter what the landing spot would be, because he'll find a way to get on the field. 113, our final pick. The Liquidators are going to go with Quinn Ewers, the quarterback out of Texas. And, since Travis Hunter was a polarizing pick, we have them play it a little bit safer here, I guess. In reality, Ewers may be the best available unless Chase would rather grab one of his Texas teammates. I know that receivers Matthew Golden and Isaiah Bond both declared. And, Bond will probably be a top 40 pick since I think he'll run a 4.2 at the combine. I don't know if he'll beat Worthy's record, but everything that's come out about Isaiah Bond has been that he is just a absolute speedster, great route runner. He'll probably run a 4.28, maybe an early 4.3, but he's fast. That's the bottom line, And you run a 4.2, you run a 4.2 at the combine, you're probably going to be picked in the first round. Anyway, justification for Ewers is right now the Liquidators have a plethora of talent across the board. They're not weak at any one position, so that generally means why not load up on QBs and Superflex? You've got Burrow, you've got Purdy, you've got May. Throw a fourth one in there with Ewers just for injury insurance. I don't necessarily think any of these prospects are truly elite in this class, for the quarterback position, but last year there were skeptics on Bo Nix and Penix, and they just continue to rise on draft boards as we got closer to the draft due to, how important the quarterback position is in the league. And I honestly feel like it's no different in our league here, especially with the free agent options at QB this year. We've already talked about it. We got Darnold, we got Kirk Cousins, we got, just backups. It's not looking pretty. So, Chase is going to select Ewers, who's at least shown competency in college. And he carries a 21-5 record as a starter into the NFL. He also led his team to 2 college football playoffs, which, I guess that's also the committee. It's not necessarily him. But 21-5 record in college speaks for itself. He's got the passing stats to back it up. So that'll do it for our first round NGG 2.0 mock draft. Thank you for tuning in, listening to this. Blind Spiral will probably be either posting his bylaws update after this or before this. Depends on whatever order he wants to get it up. But thank you all for hanging out and listening. Don't forget to let either Blind or I know if you have questions about roster moves, or if you have any general questions about the league. Really, just let us know. We appreciate doing this and love you all.